They shattered Earth's defenses. They captured her. They thought they'd broken her mind. But inside their own neural network, she found the switch and flipped the whole species to her command. Now the galaxy doesn't fear the alien empire. It fears the human running it from inside. The chamber smelled like antiseptic and rust. She sat strapped to a steel chair, her wrists cuffed to armrests slick with her own sweat. The lights above her pulsed with a soft violet hue, calibrated to disorient but not blind. For 70 hours, the alien observers had monitored her. No food, no sleep, minimal hydration. They believed this would break her. They didn't understand humans. Dr. Velith clicked his mandibles as he paced in front of the reinforced glass. A Ziran biotechnologist, a high caste. He had dissected over 100 human minds. None had resisted the neural convergence for more than 37 minutes. She had lasted 8 hours and counting. Begin stage 5, he hissed. Inside the chamber, the walls shifted. Smooth black panels slid aside, revealing spindly mechanical arms tipped with neural probes. They hovered near her skull, buzzing faintly. She blinked. Her pupils didn't dilate. Her heartbeat didn't spike. The machines injected a translucent signal thread directly into the base of her neck. She didn't scream. Her name was Ilara Wren, the last survivor of Earth's Omega Protocol, and the only human the Zarans had ever captured alive from a Psi battalion. Velith didn't know that. He thought she was civilian. The convergence sequence initiated. Dozens of alien minds linked to the stream, scientists, generals, mental engineers. A hive of consciousness funneled into her mind. Their voices, in every tongue, every frequency, thundered through her skull. The aim was simple: override her will, shatter her identity, implant obedience. And at first, it seemed to work. Ilara's breathing slowed. Her eyelids drooped. Her jaw slackened. "She yields," said one of the observers. "No," said Velith. "She submits." But inside Ilara's mind, the story was very different. She had let them in because she needed a map. The mind stream was two-way. While they poured their commands into her, their knowledge bled back. She saw their hierarchy, their politics, their fears. She found their central network, the hive root. She didn't resist their control, because resistance would have triggered a neural kill switch. So she surrendered and waited. The first breakthrough came 12 minutes into stage 5. One of the lesser minds, technician class, felt a phantom echo, a feedback loop. He dismissed it. 3 minutes later, Ilara shifted her wrist. Not much, just enough to test the restraint. The aliens missed it. Inside her skull, a war had already begun. Ilara didn't fight the stream. She shaped it, redirected it. She remembered the protocols from Earth's psychic training modules. You don't block the flood. You become the river. By hour 12, Ilara's vitals had flatlined twice. Her body convulsed. They had to inject stabilizers to keep her alive. Velith wanted to stop the test. His superior, Commander Rack, refused. "This one's different," he said. "We break her, we break them all." They never broke her. They handed her the keys. By the start of day 4, Ilara wasn't the one under analysis anymore. She was the analyst. She knew the names of every mind connected to her. She whispered them in perfect Ziran. Velith froze when she said his. "You're afraid," she murmured. "Afraid of your failure. Of what your peers will do when they learn what I am." He stared at her through the glass. How do you speak our tongue?" "I don't," she said. "You're speaking mine now." That was impossible. The translation neural interface worked only one way, alien to human, unless she had overridden it, unless she was inside their interface itself. Panic rippled through the hive. The technician who felt the feedback loop earlier tried to sever the connection. His mind imploded. Cerebral liquefaction. Ilara winced. "Don't struggle," she said. "You made this door. I just walked through it." The room went dark. Emergency lights flared crimson. Sirens wailed. One by one, the hive minds disconnected. Too late. Ilara had seen everything. She didn't need their tech anymore. She didn't need their probes or streams. She had touched the hive root, and it felt her back. The chair restraints opened with a hiss. The guards burst into the room. She was already gone. Down the corridor, a maintenance drone's casing shattered. Ilara emerged from its remains, eyes glowing faintly with alien light. She moved like liquid shadow, silent, surgical. The first guard raised his weapon. It turned in his hands and fired through his own chest. She didn't touch it. Another screamed and fled. He dropped to the floor seconds later, clawing at his skull. Ilara kept walking. Every surveillance drone she passed went blind. Every security lock opened before her hand reached it. Her presence in the hive root was growing. She no longer needed to hide. They had given her everything. 100 billion minds across the Ziran systems were now linked, and she was at the center. They didn't know it yet, but she had already started to change them. Thought by thought, memory by memory. The takeover had begun. She was still being watched. Every moment, every breath, every thought that flickered too brightly drew the attention of the cephalminders in their observation spheres. Through the translucent dome above her cell, Elara could see the smooth curve of the neural siphon's veins glowing faintly. The cephal believed she was still pliant, still cracked and reshaped by their manipulation. They were wrong. Compliance had become her armor. She had learned to wear it well. They had taken her from Earth's resistance cell on Varn Station, where she'd been captured during a skirmish with the occupying Cephal Directorate. From the moment she arrived in their sterile, humming neural labs, they'd begun their work, unraveling synaptic bindings, suppressing autonomy, filtering emotion. They believed her mind would follow the same path as the others. But Elara wasn't others. The first to crack had been Sergeant Noma, then 2 more after him. The others simply went silent, broken, used, reprogrammed, slaves with smiles. They wanted Elara to become like them, a hollowed-out human echo, ready to serve as the Cephal's model for scalable species-wide domination. What they didn't realize was that Elara had stopped resisting, because resistance gave them something to measure, something to react to, a fight, a will. Instead, she folded, smiled, nodded when ordered, accepted neural cues with alarming ease. The Cephal scientists had been pleased. One had even blinked in delight, those undulating membranes rippling in satisfaction. They called her a conformity breakthrough. They didn't know they were feeding the wrong wolf. Inside, she was learning, not just surviving, but listening. Each neural command they implanted, she mapped. Each mental override, she tagged. She wasn't just enduring the brainwashing protocol. She was deciphering its structure. They fed her the Cephal mind-sharing schema, thinking it would integrate her better into the hive. It did more than that. It gave her a doorway. The first moment of real shift came on the 7th cycle of their mental calibration. She was lying still, eyes closed, letting the brainwave suppressor lull her under. But this time, instead of passively absorbing the input stream, she threaded her thoughts into the pattern. Not too much, just a whisper, enough to make one of the observers pause. She rewound her thought a dozen times before that, running tiny variations in her internal speech to see what caught their attention. It took 5 cycles before she found the exact cognitive resonance that passed unnoticed, but still triggered echo activity in their link. She wasn't just inside their system now. She was beneath its skin. One of the junior Cephal handlers approached her directly that day. Its tentacles moved in sharp pulses, a sign of unease. "You are adapting unusually well," it said in standard to the translator. "More efficiently than any prior subject. There is little resistance in your mind." She tilted her head, smiled with genuine warmth. "Why resist? This is peace, isn't it?" That unsettled the creature more than defiance ever could. She had become their success story, their prize specimen. And through their arrogance, they allowed her access no human should have. They plugged her into the greater hive lattice, just a limited channel at first, intended to let her assist in monitoring other subjects. The moment her mind brushed against the lattice, she felt it, millions of minds, humming like machinery. Each individual Cephal was a node, but all bound together by layered biopsionic communication matrices. Thoughts here weren't private. Intentions were shared. Emotional surges could ripple like heat across a neural field. She was expected to observe. She did more. She cloaked her thoughts and accepted patterns, then inserted a thought so subtle, so elegantly human, that the system had no antibodies against it. A nudge, a pause, a flicker of doubt. In one of the researchers, it manifested as hesitation before activating a neural probe. Another forgot a procedure. Small things, but they were changes. She didn't need to fight the hive. She only needed to teach it how to question itself. Days passed. They increased her privileges, connected her to multiple monitoring hubs, let her assist with calibration modeling. She started to leak contradictions into the system. Nothing violent, nothing overt, just enough to trigger cross-thought between individuals in the hive who'd never had an original thought before. The hive began to stutter. Two junior minds disconnected from the lattice mid-cycle. They claimed sensory overload. One of the central archivists misinterpreted command and purged a decade's worth of genetic compliance records. Accidents, they were told. Glitches. But the glitches were deliberate. She shaped each whisper with precision. Guilt into one mind. A sense of futility into another. She was evolving the virus of doubt across an entire species. The director overseeing her case, High Operant Vaughn, summoned her personally to the neural throne chamber. "You have changed," it said, its tone oddly neutral. "I've grown," Ilera replied. "You showed me the truth of the hive. I understand now." Vaughn floated silently, tendrils curling. It gestured, and the connection spike sank into her neck, forcing direct uplink with its mind. The cephal's mind was vast, structured like a crystal fortress. Logic towers, memory vaults, power, command, control. But Ilera had already mapped it from afar. She'd studied its shape, like a cartographer charting an alien world. And now, within it, she dropped a single thought, like a stone into a still lake. What if unity isn't obedience? That single ripple echoed too far. Vaughn recoiled, its tendrils flaring. "You are not compliant," it hissed. "I am," she said calmly. "More than any human you've ever touched. I've become what you wanted, but you didn't ask what else I could become." And then she left his mind. Not escaped. Left. By her own will. Vaughn shook. That was not possible. She smiled softly. "You built the door. I just learned to use it better than you." The next day, across two clusters, dozens of hive members disconnected from the lattice for unscheduled isolation. They claimed neural dissonance, cognitive flooding, desynchronization. The hive mind was breaking down, splintering not from external force, but from the slow drip of Ilera's invasive clarity, a uniquely human poison, self-awareness. They had thought compliance was submission. Ilera had shown them it was only camouflage. The broadcast reached every cerebral relay across the Dravari core. It wasn't in their language. It wasn't even a language at first, just a pulse, subharmonic tonal, perfectly tuned to bypass filters, biocognitive firewalls, and signal dampeners. A low-frequency sound that wasn't meant to be heard, but felt, and every Dravari felt it. It started as a minor dissonance, an itch in the memory glands, a flicker of indecision where instinct should have governed action. It spread faster than any pathogen, faster than light, because it wasn't information. It was command. And it didn't come from the overmind. It came from her, Eris. She no longer needed wires or restraints. She didn't need access panels or neural codes. She had walked through the labyrinth of their collective mind, mapped every synaptic alleyway, memorized the shape of their thoughts. And when she spoke, not a voice, but a signal, they listened, not by choice. When the high conductors met in the mind sphere, half of them froze mid-sync, blank, wiped, not by an outside force, but by their own minds trying to follow two directives: obey the overmind or obey her. Eris had stopped pretending days ago. The containment suite's walls were open. Guards stationed at her cell no longer watched her. They knelt, literally, not out of reverence. Their bodies just did it. She hadn't given an order. She'd simply imagined one. The Dravari species wasn't controlled by fear or loyalty or ideology. They were built on hierarchy of thought. The strongest signal won. The most dominant mind controlled. Eris had studied it in silence for weeks. She didn't brute force it. She didn't scream louder. She became a whisper inside their thoughts, and let them believe it was their own. Now she stood on the platform above the grand nexus of Zark Prime. The biological world brain throbbed beneath her feet. Thousands of Dravari watched, claws clenched, minds flickering with static. Some screamed internally. Some tried to isolate. All failed. "Why do you fight it?" she asked. But she never opened her mouth. The question echoed across the neural mesh, parsed not as a sentence, but as an invitation to surrender. A Dravari war priest hurled himself off the observatory tower, not in defiance, in despair. The Overmind's defense protocol finally kicked in. The sky over Zark Prime turned red. Nanite storms swirled around the horizon. Subroutines launched psychic dampeners. The entire planet shuddered as the Overmind began to disconnect individuals from Hive. But it was too late. She was already inside, and she wasn't a virus. She was a new node. The Overmind tried to push her out, blocked intrusions, sealed the gaps in logic, contained the entropy. But every block it formed, Eris turned into a bridge. Every firewall became a door. The more it resisted, the deeper she went. This wasn't infiltration. It was assimilation. On Dravari battlecruisers orbiting the moons of Rag, officers collapsed mid-chant. Their symbols of control turned against them. Codes rewritten. Chains relooped. They still spoke Dravari, still obeyed their doctrine, but the source of the doctrine had changed. One Overmind. Now two. The High Council panicked. They triggered Omega Failsafe, an ancient exile protocol to cut off the entire sector from mental command. Burn the rot. Save the root. They didn't realize. They weren't cutting her out. They were cutting themselves off. Eris didn't react when the failsafe activated. Her pulse didn't change. Her gaze remained steady as millions of neural links were seared away. She had anticipated it. She had planned for it. Now, isolated, the sector fell into silence. But not chaos, because in the silence, her signal remained. "Breathe," she said across the network. And millions did, on other worlds. Commanders screamed at their troops to resist. Minds buckled. Entire battalions turned their weapons inward, not in rebellion, but in tranquility. The war was not lost. It had simply been rewritten. She gave no manifesto, no threat, no ultimatum. She just kept speaking, in thought, in dreams, in command. And they obeyed, willingly. The Dravari had never understood individuality. To them, identity was utility. But Eris showed them something terrifying, that a single mind, fully realized, could outthink a trillion, because she wasn't forcing them. She was teaching them. The Overmind shrieked, not aloud, in thought, a cry that echoed through corridors of time, through genetic memory, through engineered instinct. It begged the older minds, the ancients in stasis, to awaken and fix what had gone wrong. They stirred, and Eris felt them. She turned her eyes to the stars above, where the deeper nodes of Dravari legacy slumbered in silence, untouched, undefeated. She smiled. Let them wake. The high spire of Kethiar Prime once glowed with authority, a place where minds were shaped, destinies aligned, and rebellion vaporized before conception. Now it stood cold, silent, lit only by the flickering remnants of a neural control system that no longer obeyed. Dressed in the ceremonial black robes of subjugator, robes taken from the mind of one of their own, she stood at the apex, not as a guest, not as a prisoner, but as ruler. Below her, 10,000 Kethari minds hummed in unison, their mental energy filtered, networked, and amplified to sustain the mind stream. What once fed their empire's control grid now funneled through her presence like tributaries into a black ocean. And the ocean was rising. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Thoughts shifted. Across the stars, the Kethari fleets began to hesitate. Admirals who once crushed resistance in a breath now felt that breath caught in their own throats. They didn't know why their hands trembled, why they suddenly doubted orders, why the instinct to dominate twisted into confusion. She did. Aboard the warship Thousand Grief, Lord Commandrix Askiel tried one final override. Recenter neural array. Reassert species protocol. Reassert species. His command trailed off. A stillness overcame the bridge. Not silence, worse. Expectation. Like the universe was waiting. Then the crew turned toward him. Slowly. As one. He stepped back. "What are you doing?" Their eyes pulse-faint blue. And then, so did his. At the edge of Kethari-controlled space, non-aligned empires intercepted an open transmission. No encryption. No signature. Just a voice, calm, human, and terrifying. To those watching, the war is over. They just don't know it yet. But they will, because I'm already in their minds. I've seen your networks. I've seen your leaders. I know what you're afraid of. You should be. Aboard the Central Core, the Kethari leadership, those who had designed her captivity, who believed in perfection of their mental architectures, watched as the command console blinked red, then black, then pulsed back on, not with their language, with hers. You taught me to obey. Now I'll teach you something better. Choice. But make no mistake. The first lesson is mine. The Overmind panicked. Not the system, the literal collective entity that managed the psychic infrastructure of an entire species. It fragmented in real time. Portions disconnected, collapsed, or worse, surrendered. She was everywhere now, in their dreams, in their automated systems, in the heartbeat of every neural node ever connected to a Cathari channel, not as malware, as evolution. The choice had never been theirs. Aboard Earth's diplomatic station, Ambassador Ree leaned in as the broadcast faded. Her aide turned pale. Did she really? Ree just nodded. She's not fighting them anymore. She is, A dozen governments prepared retaliation, but their ships refused coordinates. Weapon systems failed target acquisition. Pilots had dreams of her gaze, calm, pitiless, all-knowing. They'd wake up drenched in sweat, unable to issue launch codes they no longer trusted, because somewhere, deep down, they suspected the truth. She was no longer just a human. She was theirs now, and they were hers. On Cathar Prime, she walked through the Temple of Mind. Statues of Cathari conquerors lined the great halls. She didn't destroy them. She let them remain, let them witness, because their greatest achievement had not been conquest. It had been her. The mind stream rippled once more, but not with pain, not control, not fear, with purpose. One thought echoed across systems, worlds, species. She is not the one who was broken. She is the one who made breaking obsolete. And from the ashes of a species that thought they had won, she created something else, something new, something human. She was ready,